Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our final presentation for Virtual Safety Week. I am Pam Pettigo, and I serve on the Education Committee. I'm excited to introduce you to our panel experts to talk about personal protection. Jeff Liberman is founder and president of Crisis Control Solutions and currently serves as commander in a large Southern California law enforcement agency. Glen Garrity is founder of G2 Safeguards and is a retired detective with the Newport Beach Police Department. Orville Wright is a professional trainer approved to conduct California CCW permit instruction courses by the Orange County Sheriff's Department. Gentlemen, thank you for joining us today. I think we're ending our week, excuse the expression, with a bang. Let's get started with Jeff.
Hey, good morning, everybody. I hope you can see my presentation. So make sure that I'm sharing my screen here properly. All right, there we go. I think we're in business. Good morning, everybody. Thank you very much for the opportunity to present today. It's really an honor. My name is Jeff Liberman. Again, Crisis Control Solutions is my side business, but my full-time job, I'm a police commander with the Long Beach Police Department. I've got 31 years in law enforcement, 28 of which have been in Long Beach, and I've worked a variety of assignments, everything from street patrol to counterterrorism to robbery detective. I've had quite an interesting career, but throughout my experience in Long Beach, full disclosure, I've never been a realtor, I've never sold a house. So I'm not an expert in real estate, but I am an expert in criminals, crime, criminals, predators, and personal protection. So what I intend to do today is just give you a very brief overview of a longer course that I conduct called Safety Awareness for Real Estate Professionals. And by the end of my presentation this morning, I want you to kind of come away with a new mindset as you approach your professional life and your personal life. The lessons that I'm going to impart to you today are applicable in every aspect of your life. So I encourage you to take notes, ask questions, and really focus on recognizing that you, as a real estate professional, you are in a hazardous profession. The numbers that you see in front of you are from the U.S. Department, the Bureau of Labor Statistics. And these are the number of homicides that occur every year in the real estate industry. They don't make the news very often, but as you can see, there are, in 2018, 20 real estate professionals that were killed while at work. Now, these aren't just realtors that slip and fall or die in traffic accidents. These are classified as deaths at the hands of another through violence. So if you think about it, real estate agents, what other legal profession is there where you are essentially a menu item to a predator? With today's digital marketing, online presence, real estate agents have to rely on images and technology to be able to market themselves and conduct business. Well, if you script and look at it through a sex offender's lens or through a robber's, a predator's lens, they can spend just like you go to work every day and work very hard to identify clients and close deals. Predators go to work each day looking for vulnerable victims, and real estate agents, because of the nature of your work, are a significant pool of targets for predators. So you are in a hazardous profession. So I just want to strip away any denial that you may have about how safe the industry is. It's still rare, but it does happen, and unfortunately all too often. And just a little side note, those numbers of fatalities that you see among all professions are among the highest. So you're up there, the real estate industry, the real estate professionals, homicides at work are up there on par with liquor store employees and private security guards. So, and they're in hazardous professions. So it kind of puts it into some context. So, lesson number one, In order for any crime to occur, you need to have three elements present. You need to have a victim, a motivated offender, and the conditions or the opportunity for them to come together for the crime to happen. What you need to remember that you have control over two of those three sides, and those are victim and opportunity. All you have to do is remove one of the sides of the crime triangle, and the likelihood of a crime occurring is very, very small. So what I'm going to go through today are some strategies that you can use to remove one of the sides of the crime triangle and significantly reduce your opportunity to be a crime victim. Again, this applies not only in your professional life, but in your personal life. So let's start with yourself, with the victim. Our number one self-defense mechanism is intuition. And intuition, as defined by Gavin de Becker, and I'll take a moment here to promote a book. This was Oprah's favorite book in 1997. It's called The Gift of Fear by Gavin de Becker. You can buy this on Amazon.com for about $5 or $7 in paperback now. It's still, after all these years, the best book, in my opinion, on how to get in touch with your intuition. Gavin de Becker defines intuition as knowing without knowing why. Intuition, essentially, in the animal kingdom, we are not blessed with the biggest muscles. We don't have the greatest speed. We don't have the best senses of smell or hearing. But what we do have is the most, the biggest brain, essentially, the best processor. And our best mechanism for self-defense is our intuition. So intuition is our ability to be hyper-perceptive of our environment, detecting cues from nature, from other stimulus, from other human beings and animals and weather, combined with all of our prior experiences from birth. Whether you recognize it or not, every single word that you hear, every single sensation that you have, life experience that you have, is permanently recorded in your brain and combined with our senses to produce intuition. When somebody says that they had a funny, over my career, when we interview crime victims, most of them say, when we really kind of strip away everything that happened, they say, you know what, I had a really funny feeling. I had a bad feeling about that person, and I just, I wanted to be nice, and look what happened to me. So intuition is really your body's way of telling you that something is amiss in your environment, and you need to do something about it. Never, ever, ever deny your intuition. It always has your best interests in mind, and you should act on it at all times. Now, there are very specific ways that you can sharpen your intuition and become more in tune with it. The first one that I will say that everybody can do is subscribe to all of the social media of the local law enforcement agencies where you live and work. The Orange County Sheriff's Department, Laguna Beach, Huntington, Highway Patrol, all of them have Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter pages. And all day long, they have representatives that post real-time crime updates, wanted information bulletins, information on road closures. And that's coming through your social media feed 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It's very easy when you get caught into a routine during the daytime. You live in a beautiful place like in South Orange County, and you don't very frequently see criminals or hear about crime, but it does happen. And unfortunately, more and more, especially in these days of criminal justice reform and COVID, where our prisons and jails have basically been emptied. So we have thousands and thousands of criminals on our streets, and our crime rates are reflective of that. So they are going to work every day just like you are. So subscribe to those social media feeds, and as you're browsing through Facebook or Instagram, you will see brief stories or pictures of wanted cars and people. And what better way to, if you're sitting in an open house during the day and you're by yourself and you're browsing through your Facebook feed and you see a post from the Orange County Sheriff's Department asking for the public's help locating a white panel van that's conducting daylight home burglaries. And that's something that you wish you could know. That's great information to have, and it's free. So that is one way to keep your intuition sharp, and also strip away any denial that anything bad happens in your community. So again, subscribe to your local law enforcement social media. The next strategy that I have for removing yourself from the equation of the crime triangle is instituting a personal and business practice of conducting protective intelligence checks on all of your prospective clients. And what that means is setting up an artificial barrier, that the first barrier that a predator has to get through in order to get to you before ever meeting you face to face. So anytime somebody reaches out to you and wants to see a property or establish a professional relationship and you don't know them from prior experience, always demand a copy of their government issued photo ID. And that's as simple as asking them to take a picture of it with their smartphone and text it to you, and then send a separate picture of them holding that ID next to them, so that's the same person. So that is a sophisticated person has the ability to forge IDs, and in a second I'll kick it over to Glenn to kind of explain how you can evaluate identification to increase the chances of your knowledge of it being good. But it is a very, very beneficial practice to demand ID from criminals, from clients, to be able to dissuade anybody that wants to do you harm. So let me kick it over to Glenn, and then I'll expand on that. Glenn?
Good morning, everybody. Glad to be here. Thank you, Jeff. My name is, I've been with Newport Beach for 21 years. I was a detective with them. We actually had a case a long time ago that I assisted on. I wasn't the lead detective, but there was a group of people using fake IDs, and they defrauded Fashion Island stores out of like $2 million at that time. And it wasn't until like one store finally taught their employees how to recognize a fake ID that we finally cracked that crime and arrested 8 people and recovered a lot of property. So I took that idea that a lot of industries out there now, anywhere from retail to hotels, I mean, everybody is asking for IDs as identity, but nobody knows what a fake ID looks like. So I thought I would teach civilian industries how to do that. And obviously when I look at all the Orange County realtors, every time you look at one of their safe lists, they're always saying, photocopy their ID. Well, if you're photocopying a fake ID, it's of no use to anybody, okay? So you need to know that you're photocopying a real ID at the time. Now, there are over 240 IDs in the United States. I mean, California, we have 5 alone. So I'm not gonna be able to tell you about all the IDs for all the states. I have an hour-and-a-half presentation that I do about that, and hopefully I'll do that with OCAR later in the year when we can do that in person. I can actually show you, you can touch and feel some actual fake IDs. So I just want to give you some real basics here of a few things you can look for with a real short PowerPoint. It's only 8 slides long here. So I think I go to my presenter or share screen, then presenter. All right, so how to spot a fake ID. First, you need to define what a bona fide ID is, okay? There's 6, for California, there are 6 requirements for that. Number 1, it has to be issued by a governmental agency. Number 2, it should have their name. Number 3, a date of birth. 4, a physical description. 5, a photograph. And 6, be currently valid. All right. Now, if you think about it, is a social security card a valid ID? It is issued by a government agency. It has your name, but it is missing a photograph. So it is not an official document that you should really be accepting as an ID. Even passports don't even have physical descriptions. They're not even, but they fall under an exemption right there, but they are exempt from this rule. Currently valid, that's another thing. A lot of fraudsters can use somebody's ID that has been, it expired. All right, a lot of people look alike and they, hey, can I use your fake ID? Can I use your expired ID since you got a new one? Can I use yours so I can go out to bars or use it at somewhere else type thing? So you make sure it's a valid ID. Next screen. Next thing I want to talk about is something called FLAG. It's an acronym that stands for feel, look, ask, and give. It's like 4 steps to do when you're looking at an ID. Now the first one is feel. If you are with a person and they give you an actual ID, there's actual security features on that ID that you can actually feel to the touch. But just because you feel that security feature does not necessarily mean it is a good ID. They have found ways to counter it too as well. So like me, first one, if you all have your, I was hoping to do this in the beginning, but if you have your IDs handy with you to pull them out so you can like actually feel what I'm talking about. But if you pulled out your California driver's license and you actually ran your fingers over your signature, you can actually feel your signature is raised up over your card. They also do that with your date of birth, all right? That is a security feature that not all states do, but California does. It's also raised up on the back of your ID or your date of birth, if you were to run your fingers over it. Now, if you can feel some bumpiness there, that is a good thing. If you don't feel bumpiness, then you know you got a fake ID, all right? But if you do feel a roughness there, does not mean it is a real ID, because what the bad guys do is they will put some clear glue over the signature so you'll feel something rough there, all right? So just because you feel something does not necessarily mean it is a good ID, but that is one security feature that you can actually do while you're still looking the person in the eye. You can check that, okay? The next part of flag is the look. Now this one is very subjective, okay? We all have different opinions on what looks like something and what doesn't look alike. But there is something called the triangular recognition, all right? These are features that will not change over a period of time, because like on the face, unless they had some type of an operation to change it, like a nose or the ears or something like that, or the skin pulled back. But facial features, so like where the ears are, the shape of their ears, where their ears are on their head, are they even with their nose higher than their mouth? Nobody is having their ears changed by operations. So you're looking at the lobes, position of the eyes. Then at the eyes, you're looking at the space between them, their shape, their eyelids. The mouth, you're looking at the height, the width, the distance from the nose and the chin. The nose, the shape, the length. The jawline would be the neck length, the Adam's apple, the jaw shape. And I was looking at that picture there on the right and on the frame there. Let's say that the person on the left is the guy that's standing in your office, but on the right is the picture on his ID. Is that the same person? It's kind of small there, but things, you obviously you notice he can change his hairstyle, his hair color, facial hair, that can all be changed. What he can't change is the position of his ears and the nose and the chin and stuff like that. So take notice that he's got a dimple in his chin, all right? Not a lot of people are having surgery to have dimples implanted. They're not doing that. So that's a good thing right there. Both of them have dimples. That's a good start, all right? The position of the ears are good. The color of the eyes. They can't change the color of the eyes. If they want to put some like contact lenses, they can always change the color of their eyes and stuff like that too. But that is actually the same person you're looking at. So that's why I'm saying it's very subjective. Some people say it's not. Some people think it is. They think they've found some matches. But it's a very subjective thing. You just try and do the best you can in that situation. Next one is ask. This is something that bouncers at bars would normally do while you're sitting in the line and they're looking at your ID. They'll start asking you questions because they know a lot of these young kids, when they're trying to get on the bars with fake IDs, they'll try and memorize the information on their fake IDs, like the date of birth, their home address and stuff like that. So the bouncers are always trying to think of questions to try and trick these kids. And so they screw up and they know they got a fake ID there. So like they might ask them, the kid might memorize his new date of birth as 2/21/75. So you might just simply ask him, what month were you born? And the kid won't even know that 2 is February. He goes, I was born in 2. Little things like that where they're not paying attention, or he might not even know his zodiac sign because of his new month of birth. They might change it. Look at the signatures on the ID as well. You can compare signatures to the paperwork. Is the signatures the same? You don't have to be an expert in signatures to see a difference in signatures as well. Going on from ask. The next one after ask is you give it back to them or give it back to the police. That means you've made all your security checks, and the best of your ability, you can tell that this is a real ID at the time. So you either give it back to them, or if you think you got a fake, you can give it to the police. All right. According to section of Business Professions sections 25-659, you have the right to seize that ID. I don't recommend you do that though. Okay. I'm not authorizing any of you to start arresting people. You're not doing that. I don't want you to get in a physical confrontation, but it also depends. If you think you got a fake ID and somebody's either trying to fool you with either mortgage fraud or trying to do something else, it all depends on where you are at the time. Okay. Are you in the office where there's other people around you and that they're probably not going to do anything violent right there? I would still say what you might want to do is photocopy that fake ID and say that you'll get back to them or something like that, but get them out of the office. And you might want to either share that fake ID with the police saying, hey, this guy came in here with a fake ID. This is his picture, and you can give him a copy of that. Or you might send it out. I don't know if Orange County Realtors has some type of a hotline where you can send out, let all the realtors know to be unaware of this type of person. He was trying to do this type of sale or tried to look at a house, and he had a fake ID or along those lines. Okay. Another thing to be looking for is now we're all coming out with the REAL Act, the REAL ID Act. This was imposed after 9/11. All but one of the 19 on 9/11 terrorists had fake IDs. Some of them had as many as 5. So then when this happened, the Congress and the Senate, everybody, they came up with the REAL ID Act that required all the states to start having more security features on their state IDs at this time to try and protect against fake IDs. And one of the things that you're doing, you know that the state is complying with that fake ID, is if you look up in the upper left-hand corner there now, you'll see like a gold star. This represents that that state is now complying with the federal requirements of the REAL ID Act. And this is what California looks like. They got the star and the bear's butt right there, okay? But all the other states will have the same thing. Not all states, I believe there might be 2 or 3 right out there right now that are still not compliant with this. They do not have that just yet, but eventually they'll all have that. And just because they put that gold star in it does not make it a real ID. I mean, that's a very easy thing for the bad guys to copy as well. They can put a gold star on their little thing too as well, okay? But that's what that gold star means now. And I think that covers everything that I wanted to cover. So back to you, Jeff.
All right, thanks, Glenn. All right, so again, just to reiterate, institute a personal practice of demanding a copy of an ID before meeting somebody for the first time. So simply ask them to take a picture of it and text it to you, and then a second picture of them holding their ID next to them so you can see their face. And then when you arrange a meeting, do that at an office or in a public area, you know, at a Starbucks, and go through Glenn's checklist, and make sure that that ID is an official government ID. So again, we're creating a business practice and an artificial barrier that a predator has to get through, one of the first steps to be able to get to target you. And if you create this, it will dissuade people other than very, very sophisticated criminals from targeting you. They always like to take the path of least resistance. So if just instituting that process and asking them will really give you a significant safety advantage.
Hey Jeff, I think your hand might be rubbing against the microphone or something.
I apologize.
Okay, no worries. Yep, that's better. Thank you.
So after you receive the copy of the ID through text, the very next thing, if you don't do anything else, is pull up the Megan's Law state sex offender database and run that person's name and date of birth through the database. You can bookmark and save that on your handheld device or on your home computer, your office computer. But if you do nothing else with that information, run them through the Megan's Law database. Now, each state and U.S. territory is mandated to maintain an up-to-date list, up-to-date sex offender registry. So if you get an out-of-state ID, the U.S. Department of Justice has a master sex offender database that links to the rest of the U.S. states and territories. And you can find that if you just Google search the U.S. Department of Justice Sex Offender Registry. It's also known as the Drew Jodine Sex Offender Registry. Run the person through that, and you will find if they are listed as a sex offender anywhere in the United States and were mandated as part of their case to register, you will find a link to their picture and their listed address and some limited information about the crime. Now, I must add the caveat that sex offenders have the right to purchase property and utilize your services. But if you do find that somebody that wants to establish a professional relationship with you is a sex offender, I would strongly encourage you to implement an enhanced safety plan, like not meeting them at all in a private setting and having one or more persons go with you to a showing and be present with you at all times as a witness and as another barrier that they have to get through to target you. So that is, if you do nothing else, run them through the sex offender registry. I also recommend, if you have the time and the inclination, there are a whole host of free online resources that you can use to get a deeper dive into somebody's background. A simple Google search. If you put their quotes around their name and you just Google them, you can see if they've showed up in any news articles. You can sometimes get links to their social media accounts and their photographs that they've posted online. There are all kinds of things you can use. There are court records online. You can see if they've filed a civil suit against somebody by running them through county court records. So there's a whole variety of them. There's also some private information broker sites such as PeekYou, it's PeekYou.com, and Zabasearch, Zabasearch.com. You can enter their names into there to see if the story that they're giving you when they first contacted you is in line. It shows sometimes past addresses, other links to their Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook pages and their photographs. If they're telling you that they're relocating to the area from another part of the state with their family, and you run their name through a Google search or any of these private information brokers, and you see their links to their social media pages, and they don't, all they are container pictures of them single with no family or no kids. It's just something that you should keep in the back of your mind. That again, you're feeding your intuition, doing a deeper dive. I would encourage you to consider, before establishing, as you're conducting these checks, to think of establishing a professional relationship with somebody is almost like vetting somebody on an online dating service. You want to do about the same amount of research before you meet somebody face to face. Again, the real estate industry is a treasure trove of potential victims for inclined offenders. So make yourself a hard target and do your work to try and remove yourself from the crime triangle. The next thing that I strongly encourage everyone to do is crisis rehearsal, or another way of looking at it is creating mental blueprints or predetermined responses to danger. So there are a whole host of likely scenarios that can happen to you when you're doing your job. You could be, there could be an attempted kidnapping. You're conducting a showing and somebody kind of like Beverly Carter, the case from 2014 in Little Rock, Arkansas, where she was lured to a property under false pretenses, and she was duct taped, kidnapped, and held at the suspect's house, and eventually she was murdered. There are things that you can do to ahead of time to pre-plan your escape or defend yourself. So I would encourage everybody, just in the interest of time, to take martial arts classes and really do a deep dive into personal protective strategies. That's an entire class. You could study that for the rest of your life. But think of likely scenarios and your preloaded responses. So if you ever find yourself in that situation, you've been there mentally 1,000 times before, and you automatically implement that plan. Which leads to get off the X. I grew up watching the Bugs Bunny Roadrunner Hour, and I loved the Wile E. Coyote Roadrunner cartoon. And it was always great because Wile E. Coyote was always hatching, he was the predator, and he was always hatching up these harebrained schemes to try and lure the Roadrunner to his demise. He would paint a big X on the desert floor right beneath a cliff, and he'd have an anvil perched on the cliff and some contraption of ropes to lure the Roadrunner there, where he would let go of the rope and the anvil would land on top of the Roadrunner. Well, all I need to say is be the Roadrunner and be hyper aware of your surroundings. Use your intuition, implement these personal protective strategies to vet people ahead of time, be hypersensitive to the environment and danger cues. And as I said, when you're the Roadrunner, you detect the coyote over the horizon, you'll never be on the X. The X represents the place in the crime triangle where the victim, opportunity, and offender come together. That is the X. Get off the X, or better yet, never get on the X. So perfect example is that you're conducting a showing of a property, and your client passed the initial, he's not a sex offender. You couldn't find anything derogatory or unusual in your Google search and your search of his social media accounts. So you're showing the property, and then shortly into the showing, he begins asking questions that are outside the bounds of professional relationships about your dating life, or what you do you like massages, and all the hair on the back of your neck starts to stand up. That is the first opportunity to get off the X, and you should have a preloaded blueprint in your mind. Come up with an excuse that you've already thought about, like getting out of a bad date, and get out of that property, get in your car and drive away and call for help. That is getting off the X. So something to think about. And then finally, self-defense. There are self-defense is everybody's inherent right. You have the responsibility to protect yourself. Just so you know, the average response time in the United States to a 911 call for an immediate threat to a person is 11 minutes. We're blessed here in Orange County and in Southern California to have very sophisticated communication systems and good staffing. So even in Orange County, for a 911 call for a threat to your life, you can have a deputy or an officer in any of our agencies here at your front door within 5 minutes. But if you think about it, 5 minutes is a very long time. So you cannot rely, and this is coming from a career-long professional police officer, self-defense is your responsibility. You are very lucky if you get an officer there to be able to protect you. We're very good at showing up and get lucky occasionally and catch bad guys, or we'll take a report and detectives will catch them later. But when the rubber meets the road and you are in danger, your first reaction should always be to get off the X, to get yourself out of that situation and get to a safe area and then call for help. If you are in a position where you can't get away and you can't hide, and your physical safety is in jeopardy, you have the obligation and right to defend yourself. And you should have some basic skills in self-defense. There are a variety of martial arts out there that you can take. Krav Maga, it's Kravmaga. It's an Israeli self-defense system that relies heavily on strikes, kicks, punches, knees, and elbows. Very brutal, very effective. There are Krav Maga martial arts businesses in South Orange County, including Mission Viejo and Irvine. Anything, karate, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is great, but anything that gets you reps and gives you confidence to be able to defend yourself is good. You should always carry some or one or more self-defense weapons on your person. It can range everything, self-defense should be you should have a few very effective self-defense techniques and be able to apply them. And one weapon and tool that I highly recommend is a good quality steel flashlight with a pocket clip and a beveled edge that you can see on here. This is one that I carry at work. It's made by Surefire, and it's called the Defender, but it's not only a very bright LED flashlight. Every realtor should have a flashlight on them at all times when they're showing properties or sitting in an open house, just because some foreclosed properties don't have utilities, and it's always handy to have a light. But this also has a benefit of being a close-in striking weapon. That beveled edge is sharp and can be used to strike somebody. You can shine the light in their eyes and hit them on the bridge of their nose. If they try and grab you, you can rake it down their arm, and it would cause significant damage. And both sides of it, where the actuator is to turn it on, is also beveled and can be used to strike both ways. The beauty of the pocket clip, this isn't a very big flashlight, it's maybe 5 inches. You can conceal this no matter what you're wearing. Men can put it in their strong hand. If you're right-handed, you clip it on the inside of your right hand pocket. Ladies, if you're wearing a skirt, you could clip it to the inside of your skirt and have it in the same place every time. So if you need to, if someone grabs a hold of you or you need to distract them, blind them, and get off the X to get out of there, it's a great tool. The second self-defense option that I recommend is pepper spray. That's an excellent way to get away from somebody, and it gives you the benefit of distance. If you do purchase pepper spray, there's a variety of them out there. I highly recommend the ones that come out as a stream rather than a fog. The stream gives you distance, and distance gives you life and safety. So if the first sign of danger, if somebody's going to assault you, you can have the pepper spray on. Don't have it buried in your purse. Have it on a pocket clip on your belt or in your pocket where you can get to it. And you can spray that in somebody's face and then get off the X. Get away as fast as you can. That is a tremendous tool to use, and I have lots of experience with both the flashlight and the pepper spray, and it can be effective. But again, nothing is absolutely 100% effective. And then the final self-defense tool is a firearm. And if you work in Orange County, and we are very, very fortunate to have a sheriff that is very liberal with issuing concealed weapons permits. And Orville is here to talk about that at the conclusion of this presentation. But if you do choose to go down that route and carry a firearm, it is a very specific tool for a very narrow set of circumstances, and it's a lifestyle that you have to commit to because it requires training, it's a perishable skill, and a mindset that you are willing to take somebody's life. It's not something, once that bullet leaves the barrel, you can never bring that back, and you're responsible for the consequences. And Orville will go into detail about that. So let me, my computer's frozen here.
Okay, like now?
No, I've got a couple more sections.
Oh, okay.
So we've talked about removing yourself from the crime triangle. We've talked about removing the offender, and let's talk about the opportunity. Your personal safety is a perishable skill. I can't emphasize that enough. It's something you need to be a lifelong student of. Safety, sharpening your intuition, being aware of your surroundings, and not only yourself, but the people that you work with, your family, your coworkers, your office, the broker. Real estate is very competitive. You're all competing for the same pool of clients, but when it comes to safety, it needs to be collaborative. So no matter who it is, if somebody is going to show an open house, I always recommend having somebody there with you. Be that person. If you don't have something going on that day, but somebody from your office or a friend of yours is an agent, volunteer to sit with them for a while so they're not there alone. So make this a lifelong commitment. Do your self-defense training. Have the ability to learn new things, practice, keep track of what's going on in the news and going on in the industry, and just have the mindset that you're always improving and always safe and being consistent. And finally, constant awareness. We live in a world today where we're married to our phones. If you look if you've got an iPhone, I know it sends me on Sundays a report on how much screen time I spent, and I'm astounded how many hours a week I find myself on the phone. Well, each hour, each minute that you're on the phone, your head is down and you're completely unaware of your surroundings. Our predators, criminals that want to target you, are looking for the most vulnerable. And your safety rests on your intuition and your situational awareness. So you need to be very, very aware of everything around you. So it's okay to be on your phone, but do it in the privacy of your office or your own home. But when you're showing property or you're engaged with the client, keep your head up, your phone down, be aware of your surroundings, know where your escape routes are. Never put yourself in a situation where there is a client between you and your escape route. Don't lead them into anywhere like a garage or a laundry room or a walk-in closet where you cannot make your escape. So the next concept, we just went over the crime triangle. The next concept I want to share with you is the OODA loop. it's called Boyd cycle. Lieutenant Colonel John Boyd was a Air Force pilot and that got his, made a name for himself during the Korean War. And he basically wanted to take our advantage that we had in the Korean War in aviation. We had like a 10-to-1 kill ratio over our enemy there. And the Air Force wanted him to come up with a simple model to train pilots so we would always have the advantage. And basically what he did was crystallize the thought process of both opponents in any human conflict. This model applies not only to self-defense and warfare, but also to sports and the business world. Essentially, when two human beings are in competition, and that's essentially what even a crime is competition. Somebody's trying to exert dominance over you. He or she that can get through this four-step process the fastest is the one that's going to succeed and overcome. So the first stage is observation mode. And we've covered that today in this brief presentation where if you are doing protective intelligence checks before you ever meet anybody face to face, it's like having radar on your airplane. You're looking over the horizon, looking for danger. If you see a blip, if they show up on the Megan's Law website as a sex offender, you have advanced warning before you ever get in close proximity to them, just like a fighter pilot would seeing a blip over the horizon on their radar. The orient phase is a person's ability to pick the best course of action, the most appropriate course of action based on what they just observed. So if you think about that, that's why I emphasize you need to think about what could possibly happen to you during a showing or an open house ahead of time. So if it does happen, you can pull that, you've already been there mentally many times and you can get out of there. The people that get victimized are the ones that deny that bad things ever happened, that have never thought about it. And when they're faced with danger, they either freeze or panic. You do not want to be that person. So think about this stuff ahead of time, get off the X, have some personal capabilities to defend yourself and the tools to do it, know to get off the X. So he or she that can see the danger over the horizon first, they can orient themselves to pick the best course of action and decide and implement it, which is decide and act, prevails almost 100% of the time. So your opponent or your attacker is doing the exact same thing. Just like you're doing protective intelligence checks, they are checking you out online. They're looking through your social media profiles. They're seeing what your family is like, what your likes are, what you look like, your physical stature, what you value. So be very, very aware of that, what you put out online. Quick tip, separate your personal and professional social media. Nobody, no stranger should know what your family life is like. And if you have kids and what you like to do for fun, you need to have a personal Facebook page and Instagram page and have the privacy settings to only accept friend requests from people that you know. And the other one, your business one, should only be professional, and be careful what you broadcast that you value. Be professional and not provocative. So your opponent or your attacker or criminal is doing the exact same thought process. They're observing you. They're deciding the best way to target you, to lure you to a place of their choosing. They decide when they're going to attack you and they act. If you get off the X, if you detect them before they decide to implement their plan, you will always prevail because you force them back into the observation mode. If they're planning to lure you to a property and ask you questions or develop rapport with you to get you comfortable, and then they decide to attack you, if you're able to detect their nervous energy, if they ask you an inappropriate question, if they're nervous, you detect body language, your intuition is telling you to get out of there. You've already thought about that and you're getting out of there. And as you're running out the door, you're disrupting their OODA loop and they're going back to the observation mode. So you've turned the tables on them. So it's a never-ending process, but if you're aware of it, you need to focus on the observation and orientation phase. So in conclusion, your safety at work and at home and in your life is best designed as a defense in depth. The more artificial and actual layers you put between yourself and a criminal, the safer you are. And based on that OODA loop, the further away, using your situational awareness and the tools at your disposal, that you see danger, that's one layer they have to get through. It gives you all that time before they get to you to be able to get off the X. The next layer is protective intelligence, instituting a process where you demand ID from somebody, you double check, you check them through the sex offender registry and through various online resources to see if they're worth your time and effort and safety to establish a professional relationship. That's the next layer they have to get through. Office safety, working, having somebody with you at an open house, actually working out of an office and taking care of each other, that safety collaborative attitude. That's another layer they have to get through to get to you. And then finally, personal safety, the actual physical things that you do with them, where you stand when you're showing a property, identifying your exits, having your flashlight, your pepper spray, your firearm, being proficient with them, always being perceptive for danger cues and being ready to get out of there. All of that is a defense in depth, and it provides you the best strategy to keep yourself safe, not only at work, but also in your personal life. So with that being said, I always like to say, let's all work together to create a hostile work environment for criminals. If you have any questions, feel free to call me. That's my number, or send me an email at crisiscontrolsolutions@gmail.com. I also am on Facebook and on Twitter at crisiscontrol1. And then I will kick it over to Orville to discuss the very important aspects of carrying a firearm as a real estate professional. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you, Jeff. Let's see if we can do this right the first time. How's that? That working? Okay, good. All right, the first thing that we want to talk about, I kind of jumped ahead a slide here, a couple of slides here. We go back up to the beginning and ask the question, should a realtor carry a concealed firearm? As Jeff mentioned, this is a very personal decision you have to make, and if you are going to carry a firearm, the decision should not be made lightly. And firearm training, just like all other training, like Jeff says, is a very perishable skill. You have to commit yourself that, yes, I am going to practice, I'm going to train, and I'm going to be sure that I am proficient using a firearm. We were talking about crime statistics. According to the National Association of Realtors, this is right on our website. Let me just move this ahead one. This is right on the website, and it says, from the NAR, working in the real estate involves many inherent risks, from showing clients vacant properties to hosting open houses and disclosing your personal information in your online market. Your well-being is at stake every single time you go out in the field. Realtors, excuse me, unfortunately, realtors are considered to be soft targets by bad guys. And that's what the bad guys are always looking for, is a soft target. Real estate professionals are often considered to be soft targets and easy prey for bad guys with theft, assault, and worse in mind. The bad guys are always thinking that realtors must be rich. They're all rich. They all drive very, very nice cars. They wear nice jewelry. They dress very, very well. So realtors must be rich. So they should be, they could be very well be a soft target. It's very easy to acquire a concealed carry weapon permit in Orange County. As Jeff said, our sheriff is very, very liberal in issuing concealed carry weapon permits, which our neighbors up in LA County don't have. Basically, in Orange County, there's just 3 steps in the process of getting a CCW permit. Number 1 is that you register for an 8-hour class that's been approved by the Orange County Sheriff's Department. Once you register for the class, take the class. The one that we run, we do 8 hours over 2 days. Saturday is from 9 to 4 and is all classroom. And then on Sunday, we meet at the range just long enough for you to qualify with your weapon or your weapons. The next step is to get live scan fingerprinting for the Orange County Sheriff's Department. And even though as a realtor, you've been live scanned before, you've probably been live scanned for doing volunteer work, it doesn't make any difference. OCSD wants their own live scan. So we provide you with the live scan form, and then you can take it to any live scan provider to get this requirement taken care of. Once you have all of your training certificate and your live scan form, the next thing to do is to upload your application to the Orange County Sheriff's Department website. Once they receive your application, and as long as it's complete with everything they've asked for, live scan form, certificate of training, proof of residency. You have to prove that you are in fact an Orange County resident. Once you've submitted it, a balloon will come up and say success. You have successfully completed your application. Now choose a interview date. Well, unfortunately right now, since COVID has taken place, the interview dates have been extended. It used to be in January and February before the outbreak is that you could have your interview as soon as 10 days after you've uploaded everything. They would give you a date, you'd go down to OCSD, CCW unit, and they would give you a brief interview. 10 minutes is a long interview. They give you a brief interview, make sure everything is completed, and then in many cases, you would get your CCW permit right on the spot. Well, things have changed a little bit since COVID. Now they're not doing in-person interviews, they're doing video interviews over Zoom, just like this. And they're very, very helpful. If you're not familiar with using Zoom or this type of media, they'll send you the links, they'll walk you through it. They're very friendly, very, very helpful. They want you to have a CCW permit, and they'll assist you in every way they can. The second issue there is that the interview dates, again, usually you could get one within 10 days. Now what they're telling people, which upsets the number of our students, even though I warn them, they'll say your next interview appointment availability date is March 19th of 2021. And they're saying, well, wait a minute, this is months and months and months from now. That's correct. And that's what they're doing from an administrative point of view. In every case that we've had in the last few months, within a week or so, they send an email saying, well, we now have an interview date available for September 11th. Would you like to take that particular date? So don't be too upset if you get a date that's months and months out. You will get an opportunity to move it forward. California requires, there's basically only three things that the OCSD requires for a realtor to get a CCW permit, or anybody for that matter. And that's number one, that you have to take the required 8-hour class. Number two, you have to have live scan fingerprinting. And then they conduct a background check with the FBI, the DOJ, and the Bureau of Firearms. And then you have to have what they call a good cause statement. You have to have a reason that you want to have the CCW permit. For realtors, it's really easy. This is the one that we have used literally hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times for realtors that have attended our classes. It goes something along the lines of, I am a realtor that is required to hold open houses alone and meet with clients at all times of the day and night, sometimes in less than desirable locations. I would like to have the opportunity to defend myself should I be assaulted while performing my professional duties. And that's it. And they have never, ever rejected that as a good cause statement. If you do not hold open houses, there's other things you can do. You go out and you inspect properties. Anyway, a variation of this good cause statement works every single time for realtors. The cost to acquire a CCW permit. Our 8-hour class cost $225, and that includes all of your class materials, range, time, and targets. And we also provide everybody who registers for a class with us a 30-day membership at the OC Indoor Range in Brea, so they can get some training in before they take the class. Live scan fingerprinting on average is going to cost, actually the high number is $118. It's anywhere from $113 to $118, and that's paid directly to the live scan provider. And then once you've gone through your video interview and everything is fine, you'll get an email from OCSD saying that your application has been approved, and they will call you to see if you want to give them a credit card number over the phone for $114, or if you would prefer to mail them a check. Either way, the total cost to get a CCW permit in Orange County is going to be about $457. There will also be the cost of approximately 100 rounds of ammo to be used for the live fire section. You can have an unlimited number of guns on your permit. You can start off with one and add 50 if you're so inclined. Your first gun, you're going to need 72 rounds of ammo. Each additional gun, you're going to need 20 rounds of ammo. You can add it at any time. Whenever you want to add a gun, you just give us a call, make a register for what we call an add a gun session. And all you have to do is come down, fire 20 rounds into the target, and assuming you pass, we give you a new training certificate to submit to OCSD. They will add that gun to your permit, and then they'll send you a new permit. The CCW permit is valid for 2 years, and they do not give you a reminder that it's time to renew your license. Unfortunately, something like 7 to 8% of all the classes that we're conducting these days, and we're doing them virtually every weekend, there's a number of people in there who let their permit expire. And instead of having to take a 4-hour class, they now have to take the entire 8-hour class all over again. They have to pay for live scan fingerprinting all over again, and they have to pay the new permit fee all over again. So those of you who are watching who are realtors who do have your CCW permit at the moment, please take a look at it right now. Look at the expiration date, and you have to start the renewal process 120 days prior to the renewal to be sure that you're going to be able to get your renewed permit prior to it expiring. Your California permit is valid throughout the entire state of California and 27 other states. Some people come up and say, well, I want one of those 50 state permits. Well, there's no such thing as a 50 state permit. Again, California is good for California and 27 additional states. We also have what we call an add-on multi-state permit that'll give you 12 additional states. So altogether, you're going to get the better part of 40 states that you can legally carry a concealed carry weapon. When can you use a concealed carry weapon? Basically, there are only 2 instances where you can actually utilize your concealed carry weapon. Number one, and the most important one, is if you fear for your life or serious bodily injury or the life or serious bodily injury of another person. You cannot pull your gun preemptively. If you think a guy just kind of looks a little creepy, you can't pull a gun and just say, hey, get away from me. You have to fear for your life or serious bodily injury. And how you're going to be able to explain this basically is how well you can articulate the reason why you feared for your life. Not the guy looked kind of creepy, so I pulled my gun. So again, number one, the only way you can pull your weapon without being called brandishing is if you fear for your life or a serious bodily injury or that of another person. And number two is to stop the commission of a felony. The first thing that we tell people, and the police will tell you, is that you are not held to a higher standard because you have a CCW permit. The police do not want you to step in and stop the commission of a felony. That's what the police are for. Instead, use your cell phone, call 911, but they do not expect you to jump in and do their job for them. So the things that you need to consider, whether you fear for your life or serious bodily injury, is 3 things. Number one, the nature of the danger. Does that person have a weapon? Does that person has threatened you? And about the immediacy of the danger. Is that person within striking distance? The rule of thumb that we use is if a person is within 21 feet and they have a weapon, let's say a rock, a stick, a brick, or anything, that's considered to be immediate danger. If they have a gun, then of course, there is no distance. But if they're within 21 feet and you fear for your life, and they're coming at you and they threaten you, then it is reasonable for you to fear for your life and reasonable to pull your weapon. And then, of course, the probability of death or serious bodily injury would attack. So if you feel, yes, this guy is scaring me, yes, this person has threatened me, and I believe that if he follows through on his threat that will cause me death or serious bodily injury, then is the appropriate time to carry a concealed weapon or to pull a concealed weapon. There's also liability involved. There's criminal liability and civil liability. There's a couple of organizations that provide specialized insurance for people who carry concealed weapons. And as I tell my students, you should never even consider going down to OCSD and picking up your permit until you are covered for both criminal liability and civil liability. There's 3 or 4 organizations that use it, that issue this type of insurance. The one that we like is the Armed Citizens Defense Network. If you look them up, they'll have a chart on there telling you why they're better than all their competitors, and then take a look at their competitors, and they'll have a chart telling you why they're better than the Armed Citizens Network. In any event, do your research and then pick the one that you feel is best for you. Just think of it as E&O insurance for CCW permit holders. Again, you should not even consider picking up your permit until you have this type of coverage. The coverage is very comprehensive and it's inexpensive. If you pay for it annually, it's a little over $100 a year. And if you mention to the organization that you took our CCW permit class, they'll even give you a discount. And that's really it. I'm ready for any questions, as I'm sure everybody else is. And I guess Pam's up.
Thank you. I had to unmute. I got the signal. Well, we do have some questions here. The first one has to do with that flashlight that Jeff was talking about. What was it called again? The pokey flashlight where you could...
So the flashlight that I carry and that I've carried for years is made by Surefire, which is in Fountain Valley, but it's called the E2D Defender. Now this is kind of like the Cadillac of personal defense flashlights. They're not cheap, they're over $100, but you can buy one for around $50 from another company called Streamlight. There's another one called O-Light. But any flashlight, and basically the criteria are a small steel flashlight with a pocket clip that you can, keeps it attached to you, a beveled striking lens, and small are the only criteria. So there are a bunch of reputable manufacturers, but this is, you get what you pay for, and I stake my safety on this Surefire one.
Well, thank you, Jeff. A lot of people have asked if these slides were available, and yes, they are for the people. Somebody said, I feel you know what your intent is to carry and protect a CCW is a good choice, but practice is essential. I think they're just telling us to be careful. We have a question here. As a broker, I'm concerned about my agents carrying a CCW. What are your recommendations to protect the brokerage? Any specific resources to help with a policy and insurance? Are there any recommendations of any brokers out there? Because I could see how you would be concerned if you had a large company and lots of people working for you and they were all running around like a posse.
Well, again, as far as the personal liability and for criminal and civil liability, there's insurance for that. The The other side of the coin is equally as important. I had a situation once, I also do this for Ventura County, where a realtor finished the class and said, well, there's no way in the world that my broker is going to allow me to carry my concealed carry weapon while I'm out. Actually, the listings are his when you get right down to it. And he has said no. And my suggestion was, I said, okay, I said, here's an idea. I said, because the Ventura County Sheriff's Department required, unlike Orange County, the Ventura County Sheriff's Department required that the realtor get the broker's permission. So I said, take these 2 letters to your broker. And the number 1 letter says, I have no issue with Sally carrying a concealed carry weapon for her own personal protection while showing properties. And he looked at that and he said, no, no way. I'm not going to sign that. And she said, fine, please sign the second one then. And the second one says, I absolutely forbid Patty to carry a concealed carry weapon while showing properties, and I will be responsible if she were to be attacked and did not have the opportunity to present herself, to protect herself. He ended up signing the first one. So again, that's just basically, I think a broker, and I'm not a lawyer in any way, shape, or form of giving legal advice, but I think a lawyer has got just as much liability by refusing to allow a realtor to defend themselves as they do saying that, no, you cannot defend yourself.
Well, thank you. Thank you for that. Is there any age limit for a CCW?
Well, you have to be 21 and be able to pass a background check. And again, we already gave what the good cause statement is. There is no upper age limit. You just have to be, again, you have to be able to be proficient in using it. When I say proficient, you need to be able to hit a target from 21 feet. And if you can't do that, then you probably really shouldn't carry a concealed weapon. There's excellent training out there at On Target where you got your gun. And again, it's not difficult. It's like driving a car. It just takes some practice. And as Jeff said, it's a perishable skill, and you need to practice, 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 practice.
If I could jump in and just, I want to reiterate that carrying a firearm, I'm a huge Second Amendment proponent, and if you choose to go down that road, it is, like I said, it is a lifestyle and it's a commitment. Anytime you go from being in a situation where you're on equal footing with a predator or a bad guy, and when you have a firearm, you're introducing a gun into a conflict. So if you are not personally committed and willing to take another human being's life, and you hesitate, that gun will be taken away from you and used against you. So you need to be absolutely sure that you are capable of killing another human being. And that's as simple as it's the cold, hard reality. A lot of people go down that road and get a concealed weapons permit, but when they're put into a dangerous situation, they're not educated on when they could use it. Or they panic and they're not willing to, and they can be used against you. So just absolutely convince yourself that you can take another human being's life before you go down that road.
I don't know if you could actually know that in advance. I've been carrying for many, many, many years. I am highly skilled in shooting. I take tactical training, but could I take another human's life if it meant saving my life or saving the life of my spouse or one of my children? Absolutely. And that's why I was saying earlier, you can use it for, stopping the commission of a felony. But from my way of thinking, the only time that I would use my concealed weapon is to save my life or to save the life of my wife or my child or somebody who's accompanying me. But again, if you could take a life? No. But I believe that if it was between you and the bad guy, if you're trained and you've taken proper training and tactical training, there should be no question that you should be able to shoot your gun.
Well, the SEALs have a saying that you You don't rise to the level of the occasion, you rise to the level of your training. And you
Good
never
point.
know what you're going to do in that type of situation. But I want to throw my 2 cents in about weapons. And anytime you, like Jeff said, anytime you bring a weapon into the category here, that's a weapon that can also be used against you. So you got to worry about weapon retention. Even for like a pepper spray, you have to worry about the wind direction, because pepper spray is non-discrimination. It's going to affect everybody in that room. If you're in a small room, everybody's going to pepper spray, even you. It doesn't matter where the direction the spray is going, if the wind's going. So be careful of that. I wanted to ask Orville, people have to think about stoppage power versus be able to conceal it. The smaller the weapon, the smaller the caliber, the bigger the weapon, more caliber to stop somebody, but it's also harder to conceal. What is the smallest caliber gun you think people should carry out there?
Well, to my way of opinion, it doesn't make any difference. I carry 2 different weapons, 2 ends of the spectrum, a 380, which is certainly wouldn't want to go any lower than a 380. And I also carry a 45 ACP. But with proper training and proper ammo, such as hollow points, and shooting for center mass, you're going to stop somebody with the 380 just as much you're going to be able to stop somebody with the 45. The key is that in my way of thinking and the way I do my training is that your concealed carry weapon is more of the device. You pull a weapon on somebody who doesn't have one, they're not likely to keep coming. They're going to sit there and say, oh, I saw this nice looking woman, demure woman over at the open house the other day. She won't be a problem. She's probably going to be a soft target. But the moment she pulls a gun, all bets are off. She's no longer a soft target. She's the hardest target I've ever come against. I'm going to leave now, and I'm going to go down the street to that other open house, and hopefully that realtor won't have a gun. So yeah, I'm not aware of any of my students. No one's ever told me. Put 2,300 people through our classes over the last 7 years, and no one has ever told me anyway that they ever had to pull their weapon, much less shoot it. But again, having it and having that one extra little step of confidence and being able to because they train, to have the confidence of knowing that if I display this weapon, they're going to back down and I don't have to worry about taking a life.
Yeah, I think that
They have a plan.
Right into Jeff's OODA loop there, where you talk, the unexpected happens right there, and they observe the target and they think it's an easy target, and then all of a sudden, boom, they pull out a gun. Now we got to go through the OODA loop again. They were not expecting that, and that would just stop it pretty much right there too. Go ahead, Jeff.
That's what we would hope.
You know, I could tell you as a law enforcement professional that you can't count on anybody's reaction to any weapon, and even in full uniform, where I've held an AR-15 or a shotgun on somebody, they've still wanted to fight. So just you can't count on somebody backing down, and you have to have a plan if they don't. And if they charge you and try and take your weapon, you're absolutely justified to be able to shoot. But don't consider pulling a weapon to be the end of a confrontation, because you're just introducing a deadly force into a physical encounter, and you can never count on what an opponent is going to do. So just have a plan, think about it ahead of time, and that's why I cannot stress enough. You have to be willing. If you carry a gun and you introduce it if you think your life's in danger and you pull that gun and you don't get the reaction, the person doesn't run away and they come after you and they're unarmed, they're not unarmed. They've got your gun, and that's your justification for being able to shoot them. So that's the kind of mindset you have to have. My biggest fear, and what I've seen on a handful of occasions, is somebody pulling a gun, like a store owner at a jewelry store. My grandfather actually was shot and killed in a jewelry store robbery. And he pulled his gun and he wasn't able to pull the trigger to defend himself. And the bad guy was armed and shot him in the head. So I'm very passionate about this. So if you decide to go down this route, commit to it and be mentally and physically prepared to defend yourself and use that weapon.
And
we have a lot of questions about getting a CCW and how to qualify. Is there a website where somebody can go and see the procedure and what it takes to qualify and so forth?
Sure. Our website is very easy. ccwpermitinstruction.com.
Okay,
And
perfect.
on there are all the requirements to get a CCW. Now in Orange County, again, it's not the same for Riverside County or San Bernardino County, and in LA County, no, you're not going to get a CCW permit. So everything you need to know, including our entire curriculum, is on the website.
Okay, then I have a question about witnessing a crime. If you have a CCW and you witness somebody hurting somebody or trying to kill somebody, does that justify you using that weapon? They're not hurting you, but they're hurting somebody else.
No, let me make it very clear. The only time that you can use your weapon is if you fear for your life or that of another person, your spouse, child, or something. The police are the first ones to say, no, call 911. If it's not your life, then call 911.
Be a good witness.
Don't be the best witness they ever talk to.
Okay, we had a question about home invasion. I know that's a whole lesson itself, but are there any rules if there's a home invasion? If you've got a CCW, what should you do?
Well, first of
Is there a
all,
protocol?
there's no need to have a concealed carry weapon permit if you're going to have a weapon to defend yourself in your own home. Again, there are training programs that you can take, and I would highly encourage them, whether you have a CCW permit or not. Inside the home is a whole nother world, but it does not require a CCW permit. You have to have if you have a weapon, it has to be a weapon that's legal to have in the state of California. It should probably be registered to you, and you should most certainly know how to use it.
Home invasions, your home, the castle doctrine, it's your home is your most sacred territory. And somebody breaking the threshold of your home and attempting to assault you within your own home, the legal standard to protect yourself and your family, you're covered. You have every right to defend yourself and your especially in your own home. So that's a pretty clear-cut case. You can very persuasively and effectively articulate that you were in fear for your life because a stranger broke into your home, and you were scared for your safety and the safety of your family. That's a very clear-cut case of self-defense.
Right.
Okay, we have a question. If you live in Orange County, can you get a CCW for LA County?
No.
No, absolutely not. LA County is simply not issuing.
But you can carry.
Orange County is issuing. Riverside County, San Bernardino County, Ventura County, everywhere around LA County is issuing. But LA County is not issuing, at least not to the degree that we are. In OC, we have, according to Don Barnes a couple of days ago, just over 13,000 CCW permits issued to Orange County residents. In LA County, it's closer to 200 in a county of 10 million people. Now, the sheriff there has said he's going to consider increasing that number by 400%. That means that in a county of 10 million people, there could be as many as 800 CCW permits, but he still has not issued any additional permits other than making that declaration, to my knowledge.
Now, what about if you
have a valid Orange County CCW permit, you can carry in LA County.
That's a question.
County just doesn't issue them. So you can carry that weapon anywhere in the state.
But
Yeah,
not
you can
into
carry
Nevada.
Area throughout the entire state of California and 27 other states. It's
Okay.
a very valuable permit.
And then we have a question, how should agents handle weapons in the home before showings? I'm not sure what that means.
Can you repeat the question?
How should agents handle weapons in the homes before showings?
Accessibility.
Oh, I see. If you've got a listing and the person has weapons?
I think what they're asking, we get this all the time for realtors, is, if you're showing a house, where is your concealed carry weapon going to be? Whether it's a pepper spray or a flashlight or a Kubotan or a stun gun. And again, it has to be on your body and be prepared to use it if you need to. I have so many realtors, especially women. I say, well, where do you keep your purse? And they said, oh, I hide it in a cupboard so that nobody will find it. And I said, you don't think that somebody either A, seriously looking at a house would want to look through the cupboards and see what they look like, or a bad guy doesn't know that that's the favorite hiding place for women putting their purses? No, if you have a CCW and it's in your purse is on your person at all times.
All right, so if I ask my husband, does this holster make me look fat? You probably shouldn't answer. I'm sorry, I had to.
I would just ask that, I mean, yes, you can keep it in your purse and keep it on you, but you do not want to be digging for it when you need it. If you're going to carry a gun, find a good quality holster and dress in an appropriate fashion so you can conceal that firearm and your other tools. Again, it's a lifestyle and it does you no good. And you know, if your purse is on the kitchen table and you're showing a property and something happens when you're in a back bedroom and you can't get back to it, it does you no good. So it needs to be on your person in the same place every time. And you need to have practiced at the range, drawing from that holster in all kinds of positions, not just standing in front of a target, but can you draw from a seated position? Can you draw your weapon if you're on your back and somebody is on top of you? Those are the I'm always very honest about what real crime looks like. And it's very ugly and very scary and very close and personal. So if you do get into an encounter, you need to be able to protect yourself with all of your weapons from every position and have not only a primary one, but a backup one. That's why I encourage a flashlight and pepper spray and a concealed handgun for all contingencies.
Yeah, and I agree. On your person is best. You can purchase, and you can get a nice one, a stylish one, or what they call a CCW purse. And with a CCW purse, it has a specific place where your gun is hidden. So again, you're not digging through your purse. There's an outside access to the gun. And again, you have to be sure that you wear your purse in the same position at all times so you're ready to draw it, like Jeff says. Another thing that we have for realtors, which I think is very cool, is that we have an iPad tablet holder that it's a zipper case. You would carry it around with you all the time that you're in the house. You would never set it down. In there is your pad so that you can make notes or talk to them about alternate properties up the street. And then at the bottom of that pad is a separate compartment. You simply reach in and pull out your concealed weapon. But again, you practice on how to do that. But that's a very cool device.
I've had a couple of questions. How do you handle it when you're taking a listing and you know your sellers have weapons in the house?
Well, if they declare that, if they declare that, they would have to, otherwise you wouldn't know. If I were a realtor, I would ask them to remove the weapons from the home while I'm sharing it. I don't want somebody snooping around. Everybody thinks they got this great hiding place for a gun. No, they don't, unless they're in a safe. I would ask them to please remove any firearms from the home when I'm showing it.
I would even go a step further in that if you are showing a house, besides the guns being secured somewhere, other weapons around that house, knives in the kitchen, displayed swords, anything like that, all type of weapons like that should be put away out of view. The clients don't need to see those weapons, and they're obviously that's something they can use against you as well.
Okay, well, I think we're out of time. This has been amazing. If anybody that's watching has questions, this will be recorded. Everybody, there's all kinds of resources online that addresses just what we've been talking about. It's just a matter of going there and finding it and taking the time and then reaching out with questions. This is a great way, I think, to end Realtor Safety Week. And hopefully we can do this next year in person with snacks.
Now, if we do it next year in person, the 9 slides that I showed is part of a 67 slide show, and you're going to have to listen to me for 3 hours. But it's a bit more complicated.
And there'll be lunch.
Oh, of course.
So On behalf of the Education Committee and the Orange County Realtors, I want to thank you all for lending your expertise this morning to educate our members. I also want to thank all of the attendees who tuned in throughout the week and made this such a success. We hope you had a great time. We hope you learned a lot, and we wish you a safe week and a safe career. And if you have any other questions, as like I said, we've got some websites that you can address. Jeff Liberman even gave us a phone number. That's very cool. So without further ado, I think we will end our meeting.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you and be safe.
Thank you.